Hello and thank you for joining me on today's video. I am Josh and we're going to talk today about Game Week 21 planning, the fixture pile-up for some teams and how AFCON in Asia will affect the players that we want. So I just wanted to start off by showing the kind of fixture congestion for these three teams before Game Week 21. So as most of you know, we have a bit of a gap until Game Week 21 starts. But for some teams, they're involved in two cup competitions. So those teams are Liverpool, Chelsea, and Fulham. So Liverpool, starting off with, they'll play against Arsenal on the 7th of January. And then 3 days later, they'll play against Fulham on the 10th of January. And then they've got an 11-day gap until their first game of the 2024 in terms of the Premier League, which is against Bournemouth on the 21st of Jan. Now, when we're considering some of the players for Liverpool, obviously Salah and Endo have gone to their national cup competitions. The players that will be, so this basically means that we've got a good gap until Game Week 21 to analyse these players and see how they're performing before they play in Game Week 21. Liverpool playing against Arsenal will be an interesting fixture. I do think that both teams will probably play a weakened side, a weakened team against each other in that game. But it might be a chance for us to see how Liverpool attack without Salah. Of course, he's a big goal threat, but he's also quite an important creator in that team as well. I just wonder how Klopp will be planning to line up against Bournemouth on Game Week 21, and what front three in particular he's going to be using. Of course, we want to consider players like Jota, players like Darwin, maybe Diaz. It would just be interesting to see who they've got. So then they've got Carabao Cup tie against Fulham, which is only 3 days later. And that's a semi-final against Fulham there. So I would imagine they play a slightly weaker team against Arsenal, and then they'll play probably their strongest team against Fulham in that first leg. So the Fulham game is probably a bit more interesting in that respect, to see who he'll be starting against Bournemouth then, because they got an 11-day gap. So hopefully enough rest time. Chelsea also have 2 games before their Game Week 21 Fulham fixture. They're also playing the FA Cup and then the Carabao Cup. The semi-final against Middlesbrough, and then they've got the FA Cup against Preston. Again, Chelsea have actually got a much shorter gap between all of their games. So they'll be playing a 3-day gap between the FA Cup and Carabao Cup, and they've got a 4-day gap between Carabao Cup and Game Week 21. So perhaps this is a good chance for Poch to try out maybe Nkunku at striker role. I know that Broja has been playing as well, so he might mix that up a little bit. But of course, Jackson is going to AFCON, maybe he'll try Nkunku, and maybe this is a good chance for Nkunku to get his fitness up as well, just to get a bit of match sharpness. But I wouldn't expect the same team to play against Fulham that it does against Middlesbrough, because it is only a 4-day gap. So Chelsea, I would say, are a little bit more difficult to predict who their Game Week 21 team is going to be. And finally, Fulham, they also have a short turnaround, so slightly longer, with 5 days between Rotherham and Liverpool, and then they've got just a 3-day window between Liverpool and Chelsea. That's really difficult for Fulham. So if you were considering players like Jimenez or Willian, Andreas, of course, Iwobi has gone to AFCON, so he won't be available. But Fulham, it's quite a difficult turnaround for them, because obviously they want to put out their strongest team. Semi-final for Fulham in the Carabao Cup is a really good opportunity. So they'll put out the strongest team against Liverpool, and then against Chelsea again, it's a London derby in the Premier League away to Chelsea. So again, they'll want their strongest team. So I don't imagine too much training between those two games there. So yeah, just these three teams. Before investing into any of their players, I would really kind of just watch closely how these players kind of come out of these two cup games. Then moving on to the absentees in the Premier League teams during the Asian Cup and AFCON. So in this slide, I just wanted to kind of show the amount of players that any one team could be missing, and also the important players. So you can see Nottingham Forest right at the top here, 6 players missing from their team, which not all of those players will be first team players. But having said that, I think any player can be a miss even if they're not playing, just because of the atmosphere that they can bring to a team, good or bad. And missing 6 players, that's a big chunk of bodies gone from your squad, and just wonder how they'll cope with that. I'm sure Nuno will have a plan. It would just be interesting to watch to see how they do. Brentford next, and they're not playing too well anyway, and now they've got 4 players missing. Visser is one of those players. He's quite an important player for them. Been playing nearly every game up top for them. Ivan Toney is returning, but still 4 players is quite a lot to miss. Arsenal are missing 3 players. Tomiyasu is probably the most important player that they're missing. Partey is missing, but he's not played a lot this year anyway. Manchester United, so they'll be missing 3 players as well. Most important for them is probably Onana. Their other goalkeeper hasn't played any Premier League football this year, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. And Spurs, they'll be missing 3 important players in Son, Bissouma and Sarr. Spurs have what seems to be they've been struggling with injuries for quite a while now, and they've just been kind of getting through it really. I mean, they've been winning some games quite comfortably, and then they've been losing some games quite badly, notably Brighton. Bentancur has come back in, so he'll be replacing midfield roles, and they've also got some firepower up top anyway to replace Son. Of course, no player can directly replace Son. He's an absolutely brilliant finisher, and they'll miss his goals. I don't think Ange will actually change the system too much. I think he's quite a firm believer in in the way that he plays. So I still expect Spurs to be attacking even without Son. Moving on to Liverpool, of course they're missing Salah. I mentioned briefly in the last slide that they will miss him, but we've got a couple of games to see how Liverpool get on. Manchester City, quite notably, missed no players from either competition. So, Manchester City, just as they start to hit a bit of form, they're also not going to be missing any players. So, and they're also having injured players come back, and it just seems to be starting to work out for Manchester City. On the right, there's a few players here that missing from teams which are not on the list. Which, Kudus of West Ham is a huge miss. He's been arguably their best player, up there with Bowen and Paqueta. So he's a huge miss out of that front 3. And I still think Bowen will score goals. He's always scored goals, no matter the players that he's playing with. And Paqueta will probably still create, but maybe their numbers will just reduce slightly because of the because of the miss of Kudus. You've got also, I've spoken about Son and Onana. Jackson here. He's Chelsea's top scorer with 8 goals. He does tend to miss a lot of chances, but he's also a good creator as well. He's got plenty of assists this season. However, I don't think Chelsea will miss him too greatly, purely because of they've got some younger players coming into the team now. Players like Madueke, who's scoring goals. Obviously, Nkunku's back from injury, and Mudryk is getting more minutes, along with Sterling and Palmer. So I think Chelsea will be okay. Their numbers for creating have been good generally all season. It's Jackson who tends to miss the big chances actually. So there we have it. I just wanted to run through a couple of those those points before game week 21, and I would hold off from buying any players too soon. Bowen has already gone up in price. Salah's already gone down in price. So those are two big names there that are going to be popular. I think information is key in this time. And maybe just take a bit of a break from FPL. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch you again soon.